So I just want to run through how to use Bearable from onboarding all the way to how you look at your reports and insights and can share that or do something with that information. And I'll try and tackle kind of common questions about the app that kind of often come up. If you watch this video and you're still not sure what to do, email me or us at support@bearable.app and we can kind of get back to you and give you more nuanced advice specific to your kind of like goals or your needs or your health conditions. There's always questions about things that could be tracked, and hopefully we'll cover some of that today. But if you have specifics, get in touch, let us know, and we'll usually be able to respond within about 24 hours. So let's get into it. At the very start of onboarding, you're asked to kind of opt into our privacy policy. I'd encourage you to go look if you're interested. Obviously, protecting your health data is incredibly important to us. The team at Bearable have chronic health conditions. We're tracking our own data in the app. It's important to us too. I think the important things to know are that, one, we're an app based in the UK, which means that we adhere to GDPR policy, which gives you as a Bearable user way more rights to your data, what you can do with it. For example, in the app, you can completely delete all of your data and your account information. These are rights you don't necessarily have if you're using an app based in the US or somewhere else in the world. We don't share your health data with any other platforms. We do back up your data on Google Cloud servers. Your data is encrypted first before it's backed up on those servers. They don't have access to your health data. We only collect email data as part of the account creation process. There's no name, phone number, gender, any of these other things that could identify you. Email address is only shared with Google Cloud servers through Firebase, which is where we host our app. That's essentially what all apps do. We don't share email data with anybody, though. Even the third-party services we use, they all just have access to a unique user ID, which can't be traced back to you. So the priority for us is that nobody has access to your health data. Even we don't have access to your health data unless you give us permission to view your account so that we can decrypt it and look at it for kind of like solving bugs, other things. It's very rare that needs to happen. We don't look at that data. In terms of how we track user behavior, that's just using, again, a device ID or a user ID and nothing personally identifiable. So we do everything we can to protect your health data using Bearable. That's basically what the privacy policy says. But again, ask us questions about it. If you think we can improve, let us know. Something that comes up quite often is the idea that we could create like an account-free sign-up process. I think some other apps allow that, and that's something that we're looking into as well. So let us know if that's something you'd be interested to. But generally speaking, your health data is basically not accessible by anybody, especially not without your permission, and you have full control over it from within the app as well. So let's actually dive into the onboarding beyond kind of like what happens with your health data. So there are a few things here. Some of this is just to help us understand kind of where people are coming from, and also so we can personalize the app once you kind of get to your home screen. I'll just kind of click through these quickly. This will affect like some of the options that you're shown as part of onboarding, and so I'll just kind of quickly run through certain aspects of this. Arthritis, anxiety, ADHD, what's depression? There we go. If you don't live with any of these conditions, that doesn't mean that you can't track them. If you've got health conditions, obviously there are hundreds of chronic health issues, rare diseases, all sorts. Just because it's not here doesn't mean you can't track it. It just means that it's not part of this onboarding screen. What you can do is add it once you hit the home page, and we'll run through that process now as well. So kind of based on what I just picked, you'll see some options here as well. These, I think, are restricted to kind of 3 or 4 different choices. I think the useful thing to think through, less so here, I think right now it kind of doesn't matter that much what you pick, because even though this choice is limited, you can add an infinite number of things to track, whether that's symptoms, factors, whatever else you want to track. You can create custom measurements to infinity, even in a free account. So what's selected here is just to like help you get set up and to like help run through some examples with you when you first use the app. But you're not restricted to just the things you pick here. Some people kind of get a bit confused by that. We understand why. The reason we've kind of limited how much you can select here is that people in the past have selected hundreds of things. They reach their homepage and they get overwhelmed by it. We don't want that to happen. But you can add as much as you want later on, and I'll show you how to do that. In terms of your main reason for using Bearable, again, this kind of helps us to like personalize what we show you next. But I think it's really helpful to think through what the reason you're using Bearable is. Most people say it's because they want to find triggers for symptoms. A lot of people also say they want to share kind of data with a doctor, therapist, and medical team. I think also a lot of Bearable users want to select many of these. I think it's useful to think about what your priority is, because that's maybe going to shape what you set up to track. And we'll run through the kind of like the framework that maybe you can use, or like the method you should use for setting up Bearable once we get to the home screen. But it's going to be based around kind of what your priority is and the reason you're using the app. So yeah, really, this is what most people are looking for. People want to be able to see what improves and worsens, whether it's mood, symptoms, sleep, or energy. That's really one of the main features of the app that's kind of most helpful. This is the thing that's helped me most. This is obviously just a demo screen to kind of show that this is something you will have access to, because this is what most people kind of would like to get from Bearable. Right, so you can also name your bear. You can shuffle through some different names. We're not doing tons with the bear at the moment, but there's kind of more plans for this lad in the future. There's one screen where you can kind of interact with him at the moment, and we'll take a look at that too. Cool. So there's a screen where you can sync data. Right now you can sync data mainly from Apple Health, Google Health Connect, which is the new version of Google Fit. And also Fitbit is the kind of like one wearable kind of like app that we sync directly with right now. There are plans to add kind of more and more wearables, more and more data points. Right now you're solely limited to steps, heart rate, resting heart rate, HRV, sleep, and a few other things. But it's quite helpful to sync certain data points, because you can still view correlations for stuff that you sync in, and it just saves you some extra clicks and some extra work every day. So I would encourage you to do this. I won't set it up now just because I'm on my laptop, and so it doesn't make sense to. But yeah, I'd recommend that you do sync some data because it's quite helpful. Equally as well, setting up reminders can be quite useful. These 2 times can be edited with this little pencil icon. I think lots of people either check in once a day, and if you check in once a day, I'd recommend checking in the evening before you go to bed, so you can kind of report on everything throughout your day, average symptom scores, everything that you did. It's going to give you the option to just kind of track everything and be done with it in one go. Some people need to track their symptoms through the day, and so maybe it's better to like have a check-in in the morning when you wake up, check-in at lunchtime, check-in before bed. But you can customize this, and you can add as many reminders as you want. You'll also have the option later on to set reminders for experiments, goals, medications, a few other things as well. So this isn't your only opportunity to do this. I'm not going to set any reminders, again, because we're just on my laptop, not on my phone right now. I think reminders can be helpful. Obviously, you don't want to set too many reminders, because you're going to get overwhelmed with like sending yourself tons and tons of notifications from Bearable. So I'd say set reminders for the most important things. Maybe that's medication or a specific factor or habit that you want to commit to or like track every day. Beyond that, I wouldn't set too much up for yourself. Cool. So we're on our homepage. The first thing you're going to be asked to do is to run through the daily health check-in. And this is useful if you want to just like check in once a day, put everything down in one place. You can only enter info into this once per day. You can't make multiple entries into the daily health check-in. You can go in and edit it, but be careful not to like overwrite your existing entries, especially for things that you can only track once per day as well. So I'm going to probably skip through this because I think it's not that helpful to start a tutorial with the check-in, but we'll have a look at this in a minute. Just quickly, if you do want to use your health check-in, you can customize it with the settings icon in the top right corner. You can set reminders for your daily check-in here as well. This basically just runs you through your kind of like health outcomes, so symptoms, mood, sleep, energy levels, and your health measurements. So that's things like blood pressure, heart rate, weight, resting heart rate. So things that might change because of the behaviors and the kind of lifestyle factors that you track each day. And then the second screen in the health check-in is lifestyle factors. So we refer to a thing as factors. There are a few different ways that you could refer to those. They're essentially like habits, treatments, medications, lifestyle factors, diet, like anything you do that might impact changes in your symptoms, mood, sleep, or energy. We'll have a talk through that in a second, but that's kind of what the focus of the second part of this screen in the daily health check-in is, just to like see the things that are impacting the metrics that you measured in the first part of this check-in. So we'll just skip through this again, like I say, because we don't really want to look at that quite yet. And then the other final part of this onboarding process is that it encourages you to get started by entering your mood here as well. We're just going to kind of close out that for now. I think the first thing to talk about is some of the like practical functional stuff for customizing Bearable once you're in the app for the first time. The most useful thing is that there's this edit button at the bottom of your home screen. This lets you toggle on and off any sections that may have been turned on or off based on your onboarding. So if you made certain selections, some things will be turned on, some things will be turned off, and you can kind of adjust all of them here within this edit button. I'm going to turn them all on because we're going to run through them all just so you can kind of see what they all do. But my advice would be to use as few of these as possible. So going back to what we said when we looked at the section of onboarding where it asked you kind of why you wanted to use Bearable, and we selected because I want to see triggers for different health conditions. The way to think about using Bearable is not that you should track everything about your health. You don't want to track your mood, symptoms, sleep, energy, health measurements, and then everything you do every day. That's more than likely going to be overwhelming. It's going to be a lot of stuff to keep track of. And because it's going to be a lot of stuff, it's also going to be hard to see patterns and understand what's impacting what. Like, yes, we can show you some of that information, but I think it's much, much better for you to focus on what your priority is. So if, for example, you have noticed that maybe you have ADHD symptoms, you're thinking about trying to get a diagnosis, but you need to manage those traits before you have access to a diagnosis and medical care, you probably want to track your ADHD traits, and then you want to track the things that might be having a positive or negative impact on those traits so that you can figure out the things you need to do or not do to help you manage your ADHD traits until you can have access to kind of professional care, and then maybe beyond that as well. So focus on your priority and just tracking your priority thing. The way that I like to think about that is that maybe you have a question about your health. So like for me, I have a question about the things that help me to manage my ADHD symptoms or traits. So for me, I want to track ADHD, things that impact it. I don't need to use anything else in the app. But once I've answered that question, once I can say, oh, here are the 3 things that most negatively impact my ADHD, here are the 3 things that have a positive impact that I can kind of keep doing to help keep it at bay, then I can move on to my next question. I can kind of hide everything that I'm tracking now, start over and track the next thing. And so, yeah, my advice, just to recap, is like, don't track everything under the sun. Track the things that are going to help you to manage your kind of priority health issue right now. Obviously, if you're not looking for like triggers and treatments that can help you, maybe you're tracking something to share with the doctor. If you're doing that, then maybe focus on symptoms. Maybe keep a record of not just changes in symptom severity, but add notes about frequency of symptoms as well. If you're just looking to monitor symptoms, again, track your symptoms. Don't worry too much about everything else in the app. Just kind of focus on what's most important to you rather than tracking every aspect of your health, because very quickly that's going to be hard to do. So yeah, just use this edit button to kind of hide as much stuff as possible rather than show as much stuff as possible. Cool. All right. Let's start running through this just so I can explain each section. I think the last kind of like functional, useful thing that is true for lots of these tabs is that you see these three little dots as an icon here. You can tap on those on any of these sections, and that's going to give you some kind of similar options for each of them. You can view a graph and a few different reports for that section. So here we've selected symptoms. It would show us a symptoms graph. We can select our different individual symptoms on that graph. We can view those symptoms on a calendar, on a timeline. We can edit those symptoms to add symptom groups and individual symptoms to those groups. We can also sort our symptoms by custom sorting or A to Z. You can do that for any of these. So often if you want to customize something within one of these sections, just tap that dot icon and then tap into the add edit, or if you want to view reports, tap on one of the other options. All right, so let's get started with tracking our first health metrics. You might hear me refer to mood, sleep, symptoms, and energy as health outcomes. It's kind of a catch-all term we use for like the things that change about your health. And that's just because there are kind of two categories that things fall into in Bearable. They're either a health outcome or they're a factor. And the factors are the things that create those outcomes. And they're the kind of two ways to think about the data you're tracking. Is it a change in my health? Is it an outcome? Or is it a thing that's creating an outcome? Is it a factor that has an impact on changing my health? And basically everything on this home screen falls into one of those two categories, a factor or a health outcome. So mood is the first health outcome we'll look at. You can see it's a 1 to 10 scale. Once you tap one of these numbers on the scale, you'll then be shown a selection of different emotions or feelings that you can pick from as well that maybe correspond to this number. You can change this. If you tap the plus icon there, you'll see a big list here of things that can be toggled on or toggled off depending on what you want to show. You can also add your own emotions here as well. Grumpy wasn't in there. Let's add that. It's probably how I feel most of the time. Not today, thankfully. You'll see here as well, like this isn't alphabetical yet. So let's just quickly close that. It's an opportunity for us to change this to A to Z sorting. You can tap back into it and you can see this is now sorted A to Z. In here as well, this isn't a kind of super evolved function, but you can add notes to your mood entries, and this is an opportunity for journaling. Maybe that's gratitude, maybe it's a place to kind of note down your feelings, the things that are pissing you off today. Maybe it's a place to think about the things you're grateful for, have a reflection on what's making your mood kind of the score that it is right now. So you can kind of add some information here today. Making it bearable. Oh. Cool. And when you save that, that'll appear in, for example, your timeline. So really helpfully, I think the notes as well, other than just being for yourself, if you want to share data with a doctor or a therapist, maybe even more relevant, maybe take notes in your mood section each day about your mood, about mood swings, about the frequency of mood changes, things that might be helpful for a medical professional, so that you can go back to your timeline, and if they have questions about how you felt on a certain date or a certain week, you'll have notes and not just your scores there to have a look at. So that's mood. You can enter as many scores throughout the day as you'd like. You can change the time of these entries, especially if you're kind of just making one entry per day. As in kind of using the app once per day, but needing to add multiple entries for a metric. You can kind of change the time on it to kind of better reflect kind of how this goes. It'll show you your average kind of score here, and the average will also be used in lots of the reports as well. So yeah, either make one entry that's reflective of your whole day or make multiple entries that kind of reflect how your mood changed throughout the day, just to make sure that this average score is kind of the best representation of how your day went. In the symptoms section, this is really the most important section, I think, for most people who use Bearable. Most people have multiple chronic health issues. More than likely you do as well, and you'll want to track kind of like different aspects of your health. Just to begin, you can track your symptoms using different time periods. Those time periods are defined as like pre, which is midnight to 6 a.m., AM, which is 6 a.m. to midday, mid, which is midday to 6 p.m., and PM, which is 6 p.m. to midnight. We get a lot of questions about why they're set up that way. We are thinking about making these time-stamped at some point in the future. Right now, this just lets you, again, kind of like log changes in your symptoms at kind of significant periods in the day so that we can see an average symptom score for your day. We don't really, at this point, give you more granular insights into like phases of the day or like insights any smaller than at 24-hour intervals, which is why these aren't any kind of more granular. If you want to track the frequency of symptoms, we'll have a look at that, but you can do that in the health measurements section. So this is mostly just about how severe were my symptoms today. We'll track other things elsewhere. To use these different time periods, you can basically tap on these to like mark how severe your symptoms were from 0 to 4. So 0 is none, 1 is mild, 2 is moderate, 3 is severe, and 4 is unbearable. You can mark how they change throughout the day here, and this will show you your average for the day as well. I'm actually going to turn time periods off. Time periods do give you slightly more accurate correlations, slightly more accurate reports. If, for example, you track without time periods, it'll show you how a factor on this day correlates with a change in symptoms this day. If you use time periods, it will only show you correlations between things that factors that precede a change in symptom severity. So if you log a factor in the AM, it'll show you a symptom change in the PM. Whereas if you're just using the overall option, so not using time periods, it will just show you two things that happen on the same day and whether they kind of consistently happen on the same day or not in your correlations report. So longer term, I recommend using time periods, but just for the sake of kind of explaining how this works, I'll show you the just the like overall function without time periods. So you can see that these are broken down into groups. So we've got physical pain, physical other, mental. If you feel like these aren't the best representation of how you want to track things, that's okay. And basically everything in this app is completely customizable. My personal preference is to add my own symptom groups. So for example, I would like an ADHD symptom group. I would like a depression symptom group. I'd like an anxiety symptom group. And I'm not worried about tracking kind of arthritis pain right now, but we'll pop it in because it's maybe good to have an example of pain. So you can use this add symptom group to add a symptom group, and often it makes sense to track not necessarily a group of conditions, which is the default, but actually to track individual conditions. This is going to make it easier then to add symptoms of these conditions to each of these condition groups, these symptom groups. Something to think about is that often people want to track like a positive symptom, and I think for ADHD there's kind of a common occurrence that pops up, or a common question, which is like, how do I track productivity? Symptoms are based on a negative score, so like how bad did they get each day? So how would you track productivity? And actually with any of these, you just want to think about flipping it on its head. So the opposite of productivity might be low productivity. And this is going to let us measure the severity of kind of like how poor our productivity was on a day. And we can do the same thing with low concentration. What's some of my other fidgeting? You'll see there that there's a little pop-up. That basically means that this symptom already exists in a different group, and you can just transfer it over so that there aren't duplicates. If you do want to track duplicate symptoms across different groups, all you want to do is, for example, you might want to put fidgeting brackets ADHD and then fidgeting brackets the other name of the condition, just so you can differentiate between them in reports. Task paralysis is another big one for me, and then like waiting mode, which is just when something changes in my day and I don't know how to deal with it. So we won't necessarily run through all of these. I'll kind of add a symptom to each of them just so you can kind of have a look at them on the home screen. Anxiety. Arthritis. This is usually hip pain for me. Cool. So we basically have added 4 different conditions and kind of at least 1 symptom for each. And now when I'm on my symptoms section, I can see I've got my arthritis symptoms. Today they're 0. Anxiety, actually I don't really have any anxiety symptoms today. I could mark it as 0, but I won't for now, and I'll show you why in a second. My depression is fine. Let's mark it as 1. And you can see here you can expand and collapse these. Just kind of like make your home screen a little bit less overwhelming if you've got lots of stuff. Low concentration, let's mark a couple of these. Task paralysis, yeah, a little bit of that today. So you can see that when you add these, a couple of things pop up. This icon means you can add notes. So if you want to track maybe like the times that symptoms occurred, how long symptoms lasted for, the number of times it happened throughout the day, track that in symptom notes. That's one of the ways to track that, to share it with a medical professional or to reflect on yourself. The other thing that pops up is this little stop button. If you press that, it just removes your entry so you can kind of start from scratch. It's just a way to, delete something you put in, basically. Now, we've got a couple of things here I haven't marked. So fidgeting, waiting mode, and rumination. And you can use this mark remaining as none button just to like basically add a 0 to all of these, mark them all as kind of not being severe at all today, not affecting you. And then to collapse each section, you can just tap at the very top, which can be quite helpful rather than having to scroll through everything. So that's symptoms. Let's have a look at other factors. So like I said, a factor is anything that might be having a positive or negative impact on health outcomes. And those health outcomes are sleep, symptoms, energy levels, and mood. So again, you'll see here these kind of broken down into groups. You've got lifestyle, which has stress, active, which is activity level. These are both variable, so you can mark them as either like no stress, a little bit of stress, moderate stress, and a lot of stress. So you can kind of measure things by how much they happened, or you can just measure things using a binary scale. Did they happen? Did they not happen this day? Factors can also be tracked using this pre-AM, mid-PM option as well. So you can mark kind of like different levels of activity, volume of these activities throughout the day for these different phases, or just whether they happened or not at different parts of the day. Again, let's not do that for this demo. I think this is useful to turn on to get more accurate correlations. But to begin with, don't feel like you need to use this. But once you feel like you've gotten to grips with Bearable and kind of how it works and what it means, if you want your insights to be a little bit more accurate based on making sure that like this factor preceded this change in your health, turn on time periods and kind of make sure you're using them just to get better quality correlations. Again, with factors, you've got these kind of presets. You can turn some on that aren't initially visible. I actually have found myself that I only want 2 groups of factors, usually to begin with, and that's going to be triggers, so things that have a negative impact on my health, and let's call them helpers. I sometimes call them treatments, but the things that might help my health. So like if your biggest question about or your biggest aim for using Bearable is to find the things that improve or worsen your symptoms, your health, your mood, sleep, energy, it's easier to like pop these 2 custom factor categories in and think of everything as, is this the thing I have a question about it helping? Is this the thing I have a question about it having a negative impact? And put everything into those 2 categories. Excuse me. It's really easy to go and Google your condition and the like most common triggers and the most common self-care treatments or the most common things that might help. That could include supplements, it could include forms of exercise, it could include forms of journaling. Like, go and look them up on a website like the Mayo Clinic, the Cleveland Clinic, Healthline. They tend to have medically verified information about really common triggers and treatments for different health conditions. You could even break these down into like categories such as like ADHD triggers and ADHD helpers, anxiety triggers and anxiety helpers. But for now, I think it's okay just to have like triggers and treatments or triggers and helpers as your two main factor categories, so that you're always thinking about like, okay, I should be using Bearable to find the things that I have questions about helping or hindering my health, so that you can just like dial in on what's really, really important to track versus kind of tracking everything. So some common triggers for me are refined sugar, so candy. And you can see here, I've got a subscription enabled, so I have the option to change this to variable versus binary. I think it's probably quite helpful to say whether I had a little bit of refined sugar or a lot. So let's put that on there as a scale. Workout. So exercise is quite important for my ADHD. Again, we want to measure whether there was a little of that or a lot of it. Oh, that's obviously not a trigger though. Let's get rid of that for now. Sorry, I'm trying to put everything in one place. Triggers, hydration. I can only think of treatments now. Let's actually go and pop over into these helpers then. Workout. Time outdoors. It's quite useful for my anxiety and depression as well. Actually, I don't know that we need to do more than this for now. Like I say, go and look up the main triggers and treatments for your different conditions. Put them into these two categories. If there are things that you know already help you and don't help you or make your symptoms worse, like, you don't need to track those. If you already have an understanding of the things that help and hinder you, there's no point in just reconfirming that unless you want to. I just focus on the things that you have questions about. So if there's a thing that you think could be having an impact and you're not sure, they're the things that you should track in here. If you already know what's having an impact, there's a different place in the app for that, and we'll have a look at that in a second too. Cool. So we can see here now, we've still got these enabled because I made entries for them. But basically, I've got triggers and I've got helpers. That's my kind of like two main categories. And I wonder, actually, we should just remove these so this is a little bit clearer. There we go. So they've hidden now because I've removed the entries for them. They were just still showing up because of the entries I made before we customized these. So I basically have three things I want to track. I'm wondering if refined sugar has some impact on my symptoms of ADHD especially, but maybe also anxiety and depression. Then I'm also wondering if time outdoors and workouts have a positive impact on ADHD, anxiety, depression as well. So I can make entries here. Today I have not had refined sugar. I've also not been outside. I did a little bit of a workout this morning. Probably not a great day so far. Try to fix that later on. But yeah, that's it. Like, track the few things here that can help you to answer questions about your health. Beyond that, don't worry about tracking every aspect of your health. You don't need to. Just go and look up the things that are common triggers and helpers and track those. All right, next section, sleep. I usually sync sleep data from my Whoop strap, so I don't have to enter this, but you can do this manually too. Sleep quality is just how well you think your sleep went last night. I usually base that on kind of like how I feel first thing when I wake up. Do I have lots of energy? Do I feel ready to get the day underway? Or am I exhausted when I wake up? So yeah, track your quality. Again, you can make notes here as a free user, like you can in Mood and Symptoms. They can be helpful if you want to make notes about, what impacted your sleep quality. Maybe you had nightmares. Maybe you woke up in the night. Maybe there's like details there that is helpful for you to look back on or for you to share with a medical professional. Time asleep. So this is the time you were asleep, not the time you were in bed. Tap into here, and what time did I go to sleep? Probably close to midnight. What time did I wake up? Usually my alarm goes off at about 7. And then time in bed is actually the time you kind of went to bed versus the actual time you were asleep for. So I probably went to bed at 10:30ish. Got out of bed at probably about 8 a.m. So I'm struggling to get out of bed on these cold January mornings. One of the big questions about sleep is, cool, so this is sleep, it's showing on today's date, but is it tonight's sleep? Is it last night's sleep? And I understand why that's confusing, because obviously sleep technically spreads over 2 dates. The sleep that appears on your home screen is the phase of sleep that began the previous night, so that began on the evening or the night of the 14th and ended on the morning of the 15th. So your sleep here is always from the most recent phase of sleep, not tonight's sleep, last night's sleep. For that reason, we have a sleep factors section. These are sleep factors that had an impact last night. So all of this is for last night. This is the sleep that began yesterday night, ended this morning, and these are the factors that maybe had an impact on this phase of sleep. So if last night you went to bed early, tap early bedtime, again, you can use this plus button to turn on a bunch of like default options here for things that may have had an impact on your sleep last night and actually had a late bedtime. This is going to help us to understand the things that improve and worsen your sleep, so that we can show you correlations, and so you can identify the things that help you to improve your sleep. The one caveat here is that nap time, it's not the naps you took yesterday, it's naps that happened on the 15th. So if you nap during the day of the 15th, this is where you put it. You don't need to go to the next day or the previous day or any of those things. Nap time is the naps that happened on the 15th, not the previous day. Cool. And then energy levels, pretty straightforward, very similar to mood, actually fewer options. You can just kind of mark how your energy changed throughout the day. You can tap on the time here to change when you're marking the rating for. You're going to be showing the average again at the top, like like with mood. And you want to make sure that the average is representative of your kind of like how you felt throughout the day, because that's the score that's going to be used to show you insights. Everything's based on the daily average. So sometimes it can help to just make one entry per day that kind of covers your average score for the entire day. If you want slightly more granular insights and you're using time periods for factors and symptoms and things, that's when it might be helpful to kind of track multiple different time-stamped entries for energy. For medications and supplements, this is a pretty widely used section. I'll just use an example of aspirin for now, so we can run through it. This is the thing that kind of tends to confuse people, because we break down the dose by strength and measurement. So if, for example, I'm not sure what an average dose of aspirin is. Let's say it's 10 milligrams. If a tablet of aspirin is 10 milligrams, you want to type 10 here, and that has to be numeric. And then you want to put milligrams here, and this has to be text-based. If it's 0.5, you have to put the 0, then the point, then the 5. It has to start and end with a numerical value under strength, and this has to be text only without any special characters. But this essentially is showing me that my average or my typical dose of aspirin is 10 milligrams per day. This could be 500, this could be milliliters, this could be anything. So these are customizable, but you just want to make sure that this top figure is numeric and that this one is text-based. And then the issue is that if you don't get those right, if this is using text or this is using numerals or there's a decimal in the wrong place at the start or the end here, you won't be able to confirm this. It won't let you move past the screen, and that's kind of one of the issues that pops up. Again, if you've got questions, if you're stuck here, email me at support@bearable.app. I can help you with this. But yeah, the main things are, think about what your normal single dose is. The measurement might be 100 milligrams. That just means this is 100, this is milligrams. The next screen here before you save this medication is that you can add reminders. You might not need reminders. These are also slightly limited. We're looking to update these. Right now you can only do it based on day of the week. We are planning on adding kind of X number of days, so every 2 days, every X times per month, etc., to make these a little bit more customizable. There's a workaround using goals that we'll look at, but right now this is kind of how you set medication reminders, and you can kind of add multiple reminders for different kind of days of the week if you take meds at kind of different times. And if you don't want reminders, you don't have to create them, you can turn them off, and you can manage all of these from your settings as well. Cool, let's just add one other. Ibuprofen, 200 milligrams. I won't set any reminders for that. This is just so that I can show you not just entries for these meds. So when you tap on the little kind of med icon each day, you can like increase your dose, decrease your dose. I think you can literally just tap on this and change it to something else if you want to. So these are super customizable, and that's why it's important to get that initial kind of strength and measurement right, just based on a single tablet or a single dose, so you can kind of increase it and edit it and move it kind of with these automated options. You can also change the time you took the dose, so if you're kind of making one entry a day in the evening and you know when you took your pills, you can set that up here. You'll see here that this little bell icon, you can tap that and you can create reminders from the home screen as well for each med. And then the other thing here is create medication groups. So let's call this pain meds because they're the two I created. This basically lets you pick any of your meds. If you've got hundreds of them, you can kind of like pick all the ones that maybe you take together. That's really what these groups are for. Set a time for when you usually take these meds. Let's say it's going to be 8 a.m. for me. You can kind of like say the kind of dose you usually take at that time of day. I'm not really taking this many pain medications every morning, I promise. Not that there would be any problem with that, but this is just a demo. You can set reminders for these as well. And again, I'd say be wary of like not setting up reminders for every medication and every medication group and then goals and all these other things as well. Pick the reminders that are going to be most useful. Otherwise, you're going to get pinged by Bearable constantly. And whilst that's good for us, if you're kind of engaging with the app a lot, it's obviously annoying. We don't want you to get annoyed with Bearable. So we'll have a look at how you manage reminders in a minute. But just to recap, if you want to, or if you already take a number of different medications at the same time every day, basically you can add them to your medication section and then you can group them into a group, and then you just have to tap that group once a day to say you've taken those meds at that time, and it'll automatically stamp all of those meds for that dose, for that time, and it just saves you having to go through and tap through all of them. We know that Bearable members often have a ton of different medications, so kind of speeding up how you log them with groups can be quite useful as well. That's meds. Custom ratings. This doesn't get used a ton. Often this is useful for tracking positive things. I think one of the things that I liked about this was that you can track well-being metrics. Relationships. Connected with... be helpful if I could spell. Connected with friends. There are some things that like you might think of as being factors, and to some extent they might be, and maybe they're better to track in the factor category. But custom ratings basically lets you kind of say, here's the thing that I did, and I'd like to rate it on a scale of 1 to 5. This is the place you can track that. I don't know how good my productivity was today, to be honest. I don't know that there'll be many cases where you need this, and one of the other limitations is there's not a ton of insights for this section yet. You can get the basic reports where you can kind of like look at each metric and see how it's changed over time. We obviously don't have a ton of data here, so there's not a lot to show you. But beyond that, there's not tons you can do with this. You can look for manual correlations, but you can't get full correlations for these at the moment. But yeah, I like to think of this as kind of like a well-being section, or like a catch-all for other things as well. So it can just be helpful to track stuff that maybe doesn't make tons of sense anywhere else. It's mostly just stuff that you want to keep an eye on for your own reasons. Nutrition, this is where you track food and food factors and also hydration. Hydration right now is slightly limited to kind of just like these set measurements, like cup sizes. I'd actually suggest maybe tracking hydration if it's of interest to you in factors. And that'll give you more control. You can create a hydration category in factors, and you can add like different types of hydration: soda, water, coffee, tea, alcohol. You can maybe track different amounts using like little to lots, like we saw with the variable factors. And you could even track ranges of consumption as well. So for alcohol, you could track ranges of like how much alcohol you consumed based on milliliters, or cans of soda. You could have cans like 0 to 1, sodas 1 to 2, sodas 3 to 4, and you could track how many you had throughout the day using ranges in the custom factor section. But yeah, you can track basic hydration here. Did you get your 8 cups in the day? I think you can add as many as you want, but I think 8 is the standard recommendation. So yeah, this is just a simple way to track hydration and whether you're kind of meeting the basic goals. But yeah, if you want more advanced stuff, go and use custom factors in the factors section. So tracking meals, obviously you want to select when you had your meal, AM, mid, or PM. Basically then just like tap a meal, or enter a meal, type in your meals here. They'll appear in a list here as recents when you've got a collection of them. What did I eat for lunch today? I had salad, so you type it in, press enter, it'll appear here. You can add it to favorites, so you have this favorites tab, so if there's stuff you eat a lot, you can just add it to favorites, and then kind of like it's easier to track it, or quickly add it from the favorites tab versus your entire list of foods. Snacks basically works the same way as meals. There's not a huge difference between them. I wouldn't worry that much. You can change between your time periods here as well if you want to enter foods for different phases of the day quickly without kind of going back to the homepage or not. I think that the main thing to consider when you're thinking about foods, again, is similar to factors. Use the section not just to track every meal you have under the sun. If there are foods that have an impact on an aspect of your health, if you have IBS, maybe there are specific trigger foods. If you have ADHD, maybe there are different types of sugary foods or meals that give you a dopamine hit that don't. Maybe you have a kind of like hyperfixation on a specific meal at a certain point. I have focus foods, like things I want to eat for like short periods of time and then I lose interest in. Focus on tracking the things here too that are going to help you to learn something about your health. If you're just tracking all the meals you have, like that's fine, but it's going to be a lot of work for you and it might not tell you very much about your health particularly. What can actually be helpful is instead of using the meal section is to use the factors, the food or the nutrition factors section, and to think about like groups of foods. So like amount eaten is kind of handy. Like, do you want to know if eating lots has an impact on energy levels? If eating a little has an impact on energy levels? Carbs, dairy, hydration, fast food. Like you can group stuff into food categories or allergens, and maybe that's actually better if you want to understand what's improving and worsening your health. So I think sometimes the meals section can be a bit of a red herring. It's useful for some people, but I'd actually encourage you just to use factors and like think about which groups of foods are having an impact on my health. This could even be ingredients. If there's an ingredient like maybe MSG is a good example that maybe like you think has an impact on a symptom, create a custom nutrition factor called MSG. Actually, maybe that should be variable as well. And then you're going to be able to say, yeah, okay, I had loads of MSG today. How does that compare to days where I have a little bit or no MSG? And it will show you that in the correlations. You can do that with meals too, but I think the meals is kind of what the section suggests that you start with, and actually factors might be more beneficial just as kind of a catch-all for things that you think might be impacting your health. Cool, let's save that. I'm trying to think if there's anything else with nutrition that might be helpful to know. Excuse me. I don't think there is for now. I think that's probably the best. Okay. Did I have sugar? No. Had some veggies and some carbs. Some protein. Cool. I feel like there's something I'm forgetting with nutrition, but that's fine for now. Health measurements. This is where you can sync data from different wearables, mostly via Apple Health, Google Health Connect, which is the new version of Google Fit, or Fitbit. This is restricted to a certain number of measurements. Again, there's that plus icon that you can press to kind of add, toggle, hide things here. For me, usually I just track heart rate variability, step count and heart rate. These get pulled in from my device. To set up that syncing, if you didn't do it during onboarding, you can still do it now. There's like this little sync on, grayed out button here, and you can tap on any of these metrics and kind of select where you want to sync from. Obviously, I'm on a laptop, so I can't sync data from Apple Health. But yeah, these are the steps you run through. Select the metric, select the source. It'll pull through into here every morning, or whenever you update those metrics elsewhere from your wearable. The other use of health measurements, and we kind of touched on this when we were looking at symptoms, is that the symptom section lets you track symptoms by severity, but not necessarily by frequency. And so maybe as a person who has anxiety, maybe I have panic attacks, and I can count how many panic attacks I have a day using this section. So you basically like type in the thing you want to track the frequency or the occurrences of. Measurement here again is just text-based, and it can be any word you want. So count number of panic attacks is basically what I want to know. You can change between average, latest, and total. That's going to be kind of what your insights will be based on, and what the thing in your home screen will show you. Is it the average across the count? Is it the total count, or is it just the latest count? So it can be quite important to select that. Again, decimal places, if you're looking at something that might have kind of like a granular count to it, you can add the decimals there. Let's just add this like this now. So we've added panic attacks. You should see that at the top. Yeah, so I could say that I had a panic attack at 11 a.m. and I had a panic attack at 10 past 4. So I'm just adding a count. I'm adding a timestamp. I can also add notes. Maybe I could say this lasted for 10 minutes. And then basically I can see I had 2 panic attacks today. So it's kind of a way to supplement your symptom tracking with additional notes, with additional data. You can also view correlations for health measurements as well. We'll have a look at that in a minute. So I'd be able to say, oh, what are the factors that happen before I have panic attacks? Is there anything that I'm exposing myself to? Maybe specific environments, the workplace, school, specific people that trigger panic attacks, sense of overwhelm in my symptoms maybe. So it can be helpful to kind of track some things here if you want to know not just the severity which you're tracking in symptoms, but then double them up or find something that's related and track the occurrence here in health measurements as well. And these can be used for anything. I think sometimes as well we hear that people want to use like a 1 to 10 scale for, say, pain. So you could call this like a rating, and maybe you want to have quite a dialed in rating and you want to know your daily pain average. It's quite a limited set of icons here at the moment. I'll have to mention that to the team. But for example, you could say, well, this morning I was really in pain. I woke up at 7, and I'd say my pain was a 7.35. But actually then later on in the day, around lunchtime, my pain was more like a 3.23. And you can see the average then is 5.29. And so in my symptom section, I can track my hip pain severity level, either with time periods or not. And then down here, I can say in the health measurements section that actually that pain changed on my own 1 to 10 scale throughout the day. And then I can view how that average changes over the course of the day. Same with panic attacks and all these other metrics that you can select along here as well. Cool. So health measurements is kind of like a really helpful supplementary section that helps you to track anything that kind of maybe doesn't quite fall or get covered by the symptoms section, especially things like pain count and rating. Bowel movements, you might not need the section. Maybe it's helpful if you have kind of digestive issues, IBS, Crohn's. It's based on the Bristol Stool scale. You can change the time of your entry by tapping the icon. You can kind of like add some factors here that add kind of color to the entry that maybe explain some of the things associated with it. That's maybe useful to refer back to or to share with the doctor. You can also add notes like you can in other sections. If you're a free user and you don't have access to the paid extra note section, use all of these note sections in your mood, symptom, and kind of sleep BM sections to track your notes instead. If you want to delete an entry, tap the little minus button like with other sections as well. So similar functions to the other sections. But yeah, you can make multiple entries here similar to moods as well. And you'll be shown your average score for the day, like with other sections as well. Gratitude, not a very complicated feature. We added this because there's tons and tons of studies from the field of psychology that show that not just writing down 3 gratitudes a day, but actually telling people what those gratitudes are can have a really positive impact on mental health, well-being, resilience to negative mental health experiences. There aren't many prompts here, but my recommendation would be that if you found gratitude to be helpful, maybe this is a good place to kind of log those things. Might be helpful to share with a therapist if you're seeing one. Yeah, not a super complex section, just a place to enter gratitudes. And then extra notes, this is a paid feature. And like I say, you can track notes in a lot of the other sections for free. But if you've got extra notes, things you want to note down, maybe they're questions for a doctor, maybe they're questions for yourself, things to look into, you can add a note here, you can add a title, you can add a timestamp. This is just a place to kind of track anything else that you maybe need to remind yourself of or keep a note of. Especially if you're looking back through your timeline, this is a great place to maybe mention one-off things that happened instead of maybe like things that happen frequently. Maybe this is a place for like big events that you might not track ever again, and so you won't be able to see correlations with, but where you want to have some mention of something important that happened on a date at a time that you might want to reflect back on. Really, I think you can probably track a lot of these notes just in the other sections. Some people maybe use this as a journal as well. If you want to keep a diary, this is a great place for that. Personally, I just use extra notes for writing down questions to share with a doctor next time I have an appointment. So that's what you can kind of use this for. You can enter as many as you want. Yeah, not much to say. It's a notes section. Right now, you can't save images or videos. That's something that we are looking into. Hopefully, that'll be available in the future. That's quite a common question as well. All right. Let's have a quick look at some of the other kind of like broad features here as well. You'll see we basically completed our daily health check-in here. And one of the things we can do is use this day complete button. What it does is it basically just like certifies that anything that we've marked as not having happened or as having happened is kind of like set in stone when we click this button. This kind of like takes you through some different levels. We're going to kind of add to these screens. I'm going to kind of explain some of the stuff a little bit more, tie it to insights, tie it to rewards, tie it to routines as we go. It's still quite a new feature, so it doesn't do a ton yet, but it shows that you're kind of making progress towards collecting data to get some insights, basically. To view correlations, you need basically at least 6 days with symptom, mood, sleep, or energy entries. Then you also need 3 days with a factor and 3 days without a factor across those same 6 days. So you need at least 6 days of data basically to start seeing correlations. And the reason we do that is just so that you've got a kind of like still a very small sample of data, but at least a little bit of data. I think if we showed you correlations with just like 1 or 2 days of data, they'd be so unreliable. It just wouldn't be worth making decisions off of them. So we found that kind of 6 days of data is kind of the minimum needed to show you something useful. So again, it's another reason to keep tracking to a minimum, just like the things that are really important, because you have to collect quite a few days of data before you'll see insights. So keep it simple, keep it easy for yourself. Like focus on the stuff that's going to like answer questions you have about your health, rather than just tracking everything that happens in your life. Like that's not going to be as sustainable for you, especially if you have to wait time to kind of like get your reports and get your insights. Excuse me. So that's day complete. Like I say, that just kind of sets in stone what you've added today, and it helps just to confirm that certain things didn't happen if you didn't mark them as having happened. You can leave this off. You don't have to tap it. It doesn't kind of change anything if you don't, but if you're using it, it's just going to kind of like confirm that what's in this is more accurate than a day where you didn't press mark complete. Let's just take a quick look at goals. We haven't looked at this yet. Goals are basically a feature for people who have already got correlations. If you found something that helps you to manage a symptom, a condition, some aspect of your health, you can create a custom goal. For me, this is doing a 20-minute run. That's something I know that is good for me. I want to do it every 2 days. I want to do it usually in the afternoon. And yeah, a reminder at 1 p.m. is perfect. So this is the type of thing, you want to add it to the relevant factor category as well. This is the type of thing where new users might not need this as much unless there's some kind of new Year's resolution, some new habit you want to kind of set a routine of doing. What I'd say though is like collect some data, see what's helping, and then if any of those things that are helping you to manage your health are things you could turn into like a daily, weekly habit, set it up as a goal so you can kind of keep track of how frequently you're achieving this thing that's kind of good for your health. And you can kind of get some unique reporting here as well for your goals. So for every day that you complete this, you'll see this grey block coloured in. In fact, let's mark today as done. So there's an example of that. So you can see here it's green now because it's marked as done. The flag shows where you are in terms of kind of dates here as well. And as well here you'll see it shows you whether it correlates with an improvement or a worsening of kind of each of your health outcomes. So did going for a 20-minute run have a positive impact on my mood today? No. This may be a little bit too soon to read into these correlations with just a single day of data. Like I say, we don't usually do that. We do for goals, usually because you can turn an existing factor into a goal, and so you'll usually have more data here. But my recommendation would be track a week's worth of data and then look at these correlations. But it's useful to kind of be able to say, I've done this goal X number of times. Generally, when I do this goal or commit to this habit, it's having a positive or negative impact on these different aspects of my health. And hopefully all of these will be having a positive impact, making your mood better, improving your energy levels, improving your fatigue, reducing your fatigue, improving your sleep, etc. And you can add and edit this. You can add, different symptoms, rumination, hip pain, task paralysis, and your health measurements too. I think you can only show a certain amount each time, but it's useful to kind of like get a sense of whether this thing that initially you thought was having a positive impact continues to have a positive impact over time. You can also use same day and next day effect buttons. So did it have a positive effect immediately? So if you did your 20-minute run, did it impact symptoms positively that day? Or are you more interested in doing a 20-minute run today? Does it have a positive impact on health outcomes, symptoms, mood, sleep, energy tomorrow because you did it today? That can be helpful, especially if you're doing things before bed. Like, does it have a positive impact when you wake up? So don't forget to use that next day effect button. And there's some information about that there too. You can also view kind of a timeline of your goals and whether you completed them. If you want to delete a goal, you can go and hit stop goal using this 3-dot icon like you do with lots of other things. You'll see that recent custom goals appear here. You can't edit these at the moment. We're hoping to change that, but you'll basically just see a list of anything you've set up in the past. And we also have all of these different kind of suggestions, these default goals for you to choose from as well. If you're a free user, I think maybe you get one free goal. I think you get 3 free goals and 1 free experiment. So there are some useful things in here. No 0 days was created by a chronic fatigue influencer that we worked with. So kind of little things that you can think about doing each day that might not take too many spoons. And then you can scroll through these, look for the ones that you might find helpful, or create your own. So yeah, goals is helpful if there's stuff you know has a positive impact and you want to like form and for it to become part of your daily routine or your weekly routine. All right, that's basically everything on the homepage. There are 3 other things that I'll show you quickly. It might be better once we've got a bit more data, but I'll show them to you now. This timeline icon in the top right corner, it shows you by date all of the things that you've entered for that date and for all of your historic dates. You can toggle through different months. We don't have data because it's a brand new account, but you can also filter this by different things. So say you go to the doctor, they want to know everything that you did in December related to your nutrition. You can go to December, look at nutrition, then just look at, day by day, did you have gluten? Did you have sugar? Did you, eat vegetables, etc.? If you go to the therapist, and they want to know how your average mood scores have been each day throughout the month, you can do that here as well. You can look at your notes that you took along with your mood entries. So the timeline is really good for kind of like answering questions on the spot about things that happened on specific dates or like trends for things as well. We hear from a lot of Bearable members that actually the timeline is one of the main things they use in doctor's appointments. Similar to that, you can tap on the calendar icon at the top of your home screen. You can plot, or you will see by default, your average mood score as like indicated by the color on all of the like historic dates. So it's a good place for you to answer questions about mood or symptoms, which you can select using this little tap through option at the top. It'll show you your average symptom score based on color using this little key at the bottom. So green is non and red is unbearable. If you go to an appointment and your doctor says, hey, like how many times do you have severe hip pain in December, you'll see different colored icons there, and you can say, oh, it looks like I had 10 instances of unbearable hip pain in December. So again, it's another tool to help you just like quickly answer questions about severity, frequency of symptoms, if not for your own self-management, to share with your medical team, with your doctor, somebody else. In here as well, you can also plot your factors. So if you want to see the days on which things got better or worse and whether they kind of manually correlate with a specific factor, you can do that. Factors appear as like a black circle. I'm just trying to think what we selected. MSG, yeah, so you can see there's got a black circle around it. That means that a factor happened. So we had MSG today on a day where my symptoms were on average 2, but were moderate. So it's just another way to view your like symptom, mood, and factor data on a calendar in case there are questions about dates that things happened. You can also view your mood and symptoms in a year in pixels, get a count of how many days you had no mild, moderate, severe, and unbearable symptoms, or kind of low to high mood. It can be helpful to reflect after a few months and just kind of see if there are patterns here, or if your mood or symptoms are kind of trending one way or the other. Again, with symptoms, you can kind of tap through your different symptoms here as well. So yeah, they're two kind of handy functions at the top. We've got an experiments tab. This is somewhere between, it's kind of halfway between factors and halfway between goals. If there's something that you think may be having an impact on your health, you want to do it for, let's say, 7 days to 30 days consistently, so you can see what impact it has on your health. This is the place to do that. The reporting is quite similar to goals. Obviously, a goal is something you know helps and you want to commit to long term. An experiment is more something you're not certain about, so you want to test it to see if it's positive or negative before you commit to it for longer. And so you can kind of do this with factors and reminders, but this is just like a more focused way to set that up. We've got some suggestions in here as well. Like, I think some of these came from somebody we worked with as well. So like making space. One of our team members who lives with autism suggested some things that might be helpful to kind of manage autism or autistic traits. Make space for quiet alone time. Embrace your authenticity, like self-affirmations, noting positive things down about yourself. I think as well this is useful for New Year's resolutions. So if you want to try veganism for 30 days and you're not sure if that's going to be good or bad for your health, use an experiment. It's going to help you to like get a clear picture of like, is this having a positive or a negative impact on my whole array of health and well-being, not necessarily just a single symptom or condition, but like mood, sleep, energy, etc. There are also some featured experiments, and these contain some kind of like helpful tools. So we have a deep sleep breathing experiment that actually runs you through a short breath work for 4-7-8 breathing. And if you want to create your own custom experiment, I think you get one of these for free. You basically can select from an existing factor or create a new factor. Let's, what should we do? 10 minutes meditation. Sorry about that funny little box in the way. 10 minutes meditation, it's going to be a helper. I want to try it for 14 days and I'm going to do it in the mornings. And you can see here, that's it. This is my experiment. I want to do a 10-minute meditation for 14 days. I want to do it in the mornings and I want to see how it impacts mood, symptoms, sleep, energy, and other symptoms. I want to start the experiment. You can invite somebody that will share a link that will give them the exact same template. And then you just want to select the things you're interested in having an impact on. I'm just going to pick these for now. I'm interested in the same day effect. And again, you can set a reminder here. Don't feel like you have to. Obviously, if you want to commit to this, it might help to have the daily reminder. But this will appear in your goals section, like at the top of your homepage. Again, you can just tap it on and off. And it will show you some insights into what impact it's having, like how it correlates with changes in mood. And you can look at this as days when you did and didn't do this thing, or like since the start of this experiment, has your health outcome improved or worsened? And you've got kind of a little count for each of the days that you do it or don't do it. There's no pressure for you to do this every day as well. Like you can do it as many days for this duration as you want, and it'll sort of show you, did it have a net positive or negative outcome? So if you've got questions about a very specific habit and you want to understand how it affects a very specific part of your health or even your whole health, experiment's kind of handy. You'll just be able to dial in a little bit more on committing to something over a set period of time. It's a bit less loose than just tracking it as a factor, and it's maybe a little bit better than tracking it as a goal if you're not really sure if it's helpful or not yet. Okay, and then in settings, significant events is a place to log one-off events. What's an example of this? Maybe you went to the doctor's, it was a positive event, you set the date for it, you can add notes about it. I recently spoke to my GP about an ADHD diagnosis, and they basically partially diagnosed me. that happened a few days ago now. And I can say whether this was good, neutral, or bad. Just as a note to myself, it doesn't affect anything. And then you can just log these one-off events and see how they correlate with changes in mood over time. Like after this event, has my mood gone better after 30 days, got better after 60 days or not? There are plans to add kind of symptoms and other things in here as well. Right now it's just mood. But this is handy for maybe acute illness. If you contract COVID, you get the flu, you get a new job, you lose your job. Any of those kind of one-off things that you don't need to track in your factors all the time, because you won't be able to track them all the time. They don't happen all the time because they only ever happen once or twice, maybe in your life. Add them here because this is a place to kind of just keep track of this stuff. This will also appear in your comparison graph. So if you go to the impacts tab, rotate your phone 90 degrees, you can like plot factors and symptoms to look for correlations manually. Significant events also appear there. So you can say, oh, when this happened, did my symptoms, mood, sleep, energy get better or worse after that event as well? So you can manage reminders here, you can manage goals here, you can add widgets for your home screen of your device here, join our social media communities. If you want to see new features and kind of give feedback directly to our team, the Discord chat, our community there is pretty active, and our whole team posts new designs for features, surveys and things like that to the Discord chat. Reddit to some extent as well, but Discord's kind of one of the main communities right now. We also have a public roadmap where you can share your suggestions. It lets other members of the Bearable community vote for those suggestions, comment on those suggestions. The suggestions with the most votes over time typically are the things that the product team, so Julian and James, my colleagues, they'll usually look at the things that are most voted for. They'll be the things that we begin to work on next. So if there's something that you think we should be doing, share it with the community, get people to vote, post it on our Reddit and our Discord channels so that people know that you've kind of posted a new idea. And then the team will see what's popular and they'll decide to work on that. That's how we kind of prioritize our product roadmap. It's all based on feedback from the community and what you guys want to see. There's a referral discount here. You can rate Bearable 5 stars if you want to from here as well. I think Bearable Heroes is a newer program we launched last year. You can basically donate a subscription to another member of the community. Tons of people in the community, their disposable income is impacted by their chronic health issues. So if they can't afford a sponsorship, if they can't afford a subscription, somebody can gift one to them. We generally gift or end up gifting about 40 to 50 free subscriptions every month. The team at Bearable kind of matches the donations to make sure we're kind of gifting enough each month as well. So yeah, usually it's around 40 to 50 annual and monthly subs. You can either donate subscriptions from this screen, but you can also apply to receive one from this screen. If you tap the enter the raffle button, you'll go to a Google form. It'll send you just through like a few little fields. It'll give you a chance to kind of send a thank you message to the person gifting the subscription as well. And a good portion of people each month win a monthly or annual subscription based on how many have been donated and the type that have been donated. There are some really lovely messages from sponsors to people receiving the sponsors' subscriptions as well. We publish those messages with consent on our website. You can view those from the settings page too. But yeah, if you're somebody who wants a subscription and can't afford one, use the enter the raffle button. If you're somebody in a fortunate position who wants to sponsor another member of the community, this is the place to do that. And like I say, for any donations you give, we'll match them at Bearable too. Perfect. This is a shortcut to the syncing screen in the health measurements section. For Americans, you can toggle on the start date of the week to be Sunday. So on the home screen right now, you'll see this is a Monday start date. If you're using a Sunday start date for your week, you can toggle this on and off, or toggle it on. If you're American as well, I think most of what we use defaults to the American settings, so like ounces and kilograms feels European, Fahrenheit, but you can toggle between different metrics here, or between metric and imperial here, depending on what you use. So I'm in the UK, so Celsius, kilograms, and liters is what I want. You can turn on dark mode here if you want it. You also manage your data here as well. So if you want to export data to a CSV to analyze yourself, you can do that here. If you want to delete your account or your data, you can do that here as well. If you want to use a PIN code lock or a fingerprint lock, you can do that here too using the passcode lock section. You can manage your notifications here as well. And then if you need help, there are a couple of options. If you've got a bug and you know it's a bug, use this button. It'll send us some data about your device, anonymous, so that we can kind of take a look into the issue. There's also a support blog here for you. You can also use this help button to kind of like get sent to some specific pages for support. And again, you can get in touch with support@bearable.app or directly report a bug to us using these buttons as well. So yeah, lots of ways to get in touch if you need some help. They're all of the main features here. Obviously, the bit we haven't looked at yet is kind of insights and kind of trends. I'm going to populate this account with a little bit of data. And then once we have some data, or like a big enough sample of data so I can show you these reports, we'll run through those quickly next as well. We are back. I have just populated the past kind of week or so of data in Bearable so that we can take a peek at insights and impacts and kind of reports and kind of what each of these things looks like when there's some data in your account. So I've hidden a few things from the home screen. I've kind of kept it to the things I think might be interesting to look at. Just quickly as well, let's take a peek at the calendar so you can kind of see how mood and symptoms might populate here for you, and in pixels as well. And then let's also look at the timeline. This will have a bit more in it now. So you can see that I've got a timeline for all of my recent dates, and I can sort these by, for example, just symptoms over these dates or just mood over these dates. And you can also select, just combinations of these things too. Just take a peek at those quickly while there's more data. All right, impacts. This is the main tab you will want to use for things. So impacts shows you the correlations between this selection of things at the top. So you can select specific categories here, or multiple categories. Something to be aware of is with nutrition factors, if you are tracking meals, you'll want to add this, you'll want to check this meals tag as well. I've only tracked nutrition factors, but yeah, if you've got meals logged, check that first. For now, we'll just look at all factors and how they impact. So the default is mood. You can see that, for example, when I eat sugar, my mood improves. When I eat lots, my mood improves. When I eat fast food, my mood improves. That all makes sense. If I'm more interested to see how my factors impact something like hip pain, these percentages are going to be very big right now. And that's because I've got a small sample of data. So I've only got 2 weeks of data. If you collect a month, 2 months, 3 months of data, these percentages will be much, much more accurate because they'll be based on a lot more days of data. So don't pay so much attention to the numbers here, but just the overall information that we're reading. Essentially, like late bedtime is the thing that had the biggest negative impact on hip pain for me. So if I'm not getting enough sleep, I'm experiencing more pain. Let's look at some of these others. So when I eat lots, my hip pain is worse. When I eat fast food, my hip pain tends to be worse. When I've got poor hydration, pain tends to be worse. So there are some kind of useful things we can draw from this report, which is that there are activities here which correlate with worsening pain. So if I do these things less, my pain should go down. If we scroll all the way to the bottom here and take a look at the kind of the foot of this this table, you'll be able to see the factors that have a positive impact. So good hydration has a positive impact on pain, and early bedtime has a positive impact on pain. Working out has a positive impact on pain. A plant-based diet has a positive impact on pain. You can see that there are there are kind of activities, factors that have a positive impact. So these are the things I should be doing more of if I want to manage pain. And that's kind of the main thing that people want in Bearable, is just an understanding of what's helping, what's like worsening their symptoms. This is how you view that. If it's red and it's near the top, it's the thing that's having the worst impact. If it's green and it's near the bottom, it's the thing that's having the best impact. You can also see things that kind of don't have enough data yet. So I need to track carbohydrates 2 more times. I need to track hydration was okay 2 more times to view correlations with it. So you can kind of see here if there are kind of pending correlations that you don't have enough data for yet. And you can basically look through kind of any of your symptoms to see what's helping and hurting them. And you can change this to, if you want to see the long-term effects, say, of a medication that you begin, if you want to know how much that medication affects you the next day, after 2 days, after 3 days, you can select that here. If you're interested in how these factors impact you across a range of health outcomes, you can also do that in this grid view. You can kind of select different categories up here. We'll leave it on all for now. But this lets you take a look at one of your factors and see, does it generally have a positive or negative impact across my different health outcomes? It's a lot of data to take in here. What you're looking for really is there something that has like green across the board here for me? So 20-minute run doesn't help my mood, but it helps my energy levels, fatigue. Oh, this looks like it's being a bit buggy right now. It looks as though, let's have a look. Where was it? Let's have a look at 10 minutes meditation. Yeah, 10 minutes meditation. Bad for mood. Good for energy levels. Good for sleep quality and time to sleep. So 10 minutes meditation might be quite useful for me. My mood just might be worse on those days. So it kind of seems like the things that are good for me maybe aren't great for my mood. Maybe I want to look for things that are good for my mood and my other kind of health outcomes. Or maybe I'm happy to take a hit on my mood for the sake of the rest of my health. And maybe I can find something else that's good for my mood to kind of like offset some of that on the same day as well. So maybe I need a little bit of sugar and a 10-minute meditation to kind of take care of every aspect of my health. Now that I know that, what I can do is, wrong button, go back to my home page. I can turn on goals, and I can create a new goal called 10 mins meditation, small amount of sugar. So two things that are seemingly positive for my overall health, turn them into a goal, try and do them every day at any time, set it up as helpers. Cool. Now I can start working on forming the habit of doing these 2 things that should have an ongoing positive impact on my health, and then I can monitor to make sure they do keep having a positive impact on my health as well. So that's kind of how I would suggest to use the Impacts tab to learn about what helps your health, so you can turn it into a useful routine, a goal for yourself. But there are a few other things we can do here as well. In the Trends tab, you'll see this button for your weekly report. The weekly report is going to show you the previous 7 days versus the 7 days before that, so 2 7-day periods versus each other. This is mostly helpful so you can take a look at, has my mood improved or worsened? Has my symptom score improved or worsened over the most recent 7-day period? You can customize this by kind of like adding the things that you're interested in seeing trends for each week. Like, again, put in the things that are most important to you. Focus on just the things that like you want to know about rather than tracking everything. You'll get a sense of like, are things getting better or worse? It'll help you to figure out what you maybe need to focus on this week. So for example, if we so this is the last 7 days versus the previous 30 days. We can see that my mood got worse in the last 7 days. And so it dropped by 16%. So it's probably from around 7 to 5.7. If we know that mood is worsening, let's go to the Impacts tab. Let's have a look at the list view. Let's see what factors have a positive impact on my mood. Other than sugar, good hydration, eating more, dog in the bedroom. Cool. There are 3 things I can do this week, today, to help improve my mood so that it doesn't keep trending down, so that maybe I can turn that around and get it trending upwards. So again, you can use these reports in tandem to see what's getting better and worse. Then let's go and look at what I can do to manage these things that are getting worse. In here as well, you can view like a count. So this number on the left shows you how many times you did this thing in the previous 7 days. And this one shows you in the purple how many more or less times you did this in the previous period. There's not a ton of data here, obviously, which doesn't help us. But yeah, you can get a sense of what's changed week over week in terms of your habits. Have you done more or less of something? And does that correlate in your mind with some of these changes as well? But I'd say that's less helpful than just looking for what's improving and what's worsening. Like, use your weekly report to say, what should my priority be right now? What got worse last week that I need to focus on this week? And then go find out what's going to help with that thing or that metric this week by using your Impacts tab to kind of dial into the things that improve and worsen it. You can also switch between improve and worsen, best and worst on this as well. I kind of tend to like to sort with the best at the top. I prefer to see the things that help rather than the things that don't help. I think as well, if you're going to share data with a doctor, which is another kind of like big thing that people want to do with Bearable, I'd really think about tracking the frequency of symptoms, the severity of symptoms. So track the severity in your symptom section, track the frequency in your health measurement section. The other things that doctors are really interested in is the extent to which your symptoms are impacting your ability to work, your ability to socialize, your ability to complete everyday tasks and chores. And it might be worth keeping track of those metrics as well. So you could track them as a factor. You could have a group here of like, I'm trying to think what we could call it. Impact on lifestyle, maybe, where you could have factors that say couldn't complete chores, couldn't socialize, couldn't work. So you have a count of how many days of your week, month, year you couldn't do these things because of your health. Alternatively, you could have a group of symptoms that kind of say the same thing. It could be couldn't socialize, couldn't work, couldn't perform everyday tasks. And you can then rate it on a scale of like, didn't happen to couldn't do it at all. But I think it's useful to think about like what a doctor wants from you when you go to see them, and to collect that information as a symptom, as a factor, as a custom measurement somewhere, so that you're like able to give them the information they need rather than just showing up and showing them reports and giving them loads of stuff. Like, just try to answer their questions. That tends to be what they're going to want. That said, people have told us that when they screen grab some of their reports, especially their calendar, their timeline, their factor counts, they can all be helpful. Basically screen grab stuff, put it into a document like a Word doc or something, so you can like print it, take it with you to to an appointment. We also have a free resources section on our website. We have a printable worksheet called a chronic illness resume, and it basically is an A4 or a US letter sized sheet that lets you just like write down changes in your symptoms, changes in your lifestyle, questions for your doctor, kind of significant events that have happened in your medical history, stuff that like will be useful, especially if you see a new doctor. So you can do most of that from within the app, but if you feel like you need a printout, go check out our website, go check out the free resources. You can see it in the footer of the website, and there's kind of tools there to help you prepare for appointments as well. And you can maybe fill that sheet in based on data you've collected here. If you feel like just showing the app to your doctor might not be enough as well. Some doctors we hear respond better to having like a printout versus seeing the app. And actually we're working on PDF reports that you can print from Bearable as well at the moment. So hopefully they'll be available in the app for you as well. We haven't fully been through trends yet. This is mostly going to show you kind of just like over time how mood has changed, how different symptoms have changed, how your total symptom score has changed. This is, again, another way, similar to weekly reports, just to see how things are trending over 30 days, over 60 days, over a year. Like, are things getting better? Are they getting worse? And it helps you just to get perspective. I think one of the things that our founder, James, who lives with chronic migraine, has said is that for him, in the moment that he's experiencing migraine symptoms, not just headaches, but also aura and other symptoms that you experience as a person with migraine, there are tons of them. It's easy, especially when you're experiencing pain. And maybe even this is true for depression as well. Those moments feel like they last forever. And actually in here, it can be useful to see it was a day, it was 2 days, it was less than a day. I think sometimes that perspective isn't what you want to hear, but it's useful to know, to get perspective on how long do these periods really, really last versus how I imagine them in my mind as being these like unending things because they're so extreme when you're going through them. That's not to diminish them or dismiss them. Like experiencing chronic pain, depression, depressive thoughts, apathy, any of these things, it's horrible for, even if it lasts for a minute. But I think it can be helpful sometimes when you're kind of doing long-term management to get perspective by saying, okay, realistically, 3 days out of the month, I'm going to experience this thing. Next time I experience it, it's probably only going to last a day or two. I will get through it. And I think there's hope to be had in that as well. So health trends is kind of like a slightly more advanced version of your weekly report. It's just showing you over longer periods of time visually whether things are going up or down. Most prevalent symptoms is a really popular feature here as well. It shows you like which of your symptoms are kind of like more prevalent at any point in time. So in the last 30 days, which of your symptoms have been most prevalent? For me, it's been hip pain, apathy, so arthritis and depression. And you can break this down by each of your individual conditions too. So I can see that I've had 63, or a score of 63 across my symptoms for my ADHD symptoms, with fidgeting, waiting mode and task paralysis being slightly more prevalent than some of these concentration and productivity symptoms, traits. There's a whole mood report here. This is a place to kind of like view, I haven't tracked many feelings, but you can see your most commonly tagged feelings here. That might be useful to share with a therapist. You can see day of the week, kind of what your moods are generally. I seem to be happier on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. Seem to be happier when I wake up versus the end of the day. So there's some useful information there about mood. Similar reports here for kind of sleep. Days of the week you sleep better versus worse. So maybe on these days where it's worse, you could look at your impacts tab for what improves sleep. Try to do those things on the days where typically you're having worse sleep. Same with symptoms again. These are all kind of, these used to be called advanced reports. They've all just been bumped into the trends tab at the moment. So that you can kind of scroll through and take a look at kind of prevalence here of symptoms, changes in severity for each day here. So you can see I had loads of moderate and a few severe on this day, and on this day I only had mild. You also get a count over this period. So in the last 30 days, I've had 4 days with mild symptoms, 3 days with moderate, 3 days with severe. Symptoms per day, my symptoms seem to be worse on weekends as well. They seem to be fairly evenly distributed across the phases of the day. It's probably because I wasn't using time periods on the homepage. So you get a sense basically like if you want to dial into trends for symptoms, mood, sleep, energy, this is the place to do it. You can get your like averages per day of the week, averages per month, averages per phase of the day, etc. Something that maybe gets overlooked a little bit is that in the factor breakdown, it shows you a count of how many of these things you've done over this period of time. So refined sugar, I've had it 4 times in 30 days. You can click into these, and I think that gets overlooked. And this will show you when your biggest counts for each of these factors are. So are you eating sugar more on the weekends versus in the week? For me, that is a yes by the look of things. And basically for any of these factors, you'll be shown how it correlates with mood and symptoms, not with sleep and energy at the moment. But you can tap into any of these factors to get a big breakdown of kind of when you're doing them, how often you're doing them, how they impact things. So 10 minutes meditation doesn't seem to help me with mood. When I do this, my mood tends to be 25% lower. I tend to feel anxious when I do this. My symptoms seem to be slightly milder rather than moderate when I do this. They seem to bring my symptoms down by about 55%. Again, pay less attention to the percentage here because I've got a small sample of data, but my symptom score when I'm not doing meditation is an average of 15.5. On days where I do meditation, it's 6.9. Maybe that's because I'm more likely to do meditation on days where my symptoms are less severe. It's not necessarily causation, it's just correlation. But it's a way for you to have a conversation. Okay, so is this helping, or is it just something I do on days where I already have the capacity for it? Again, you can get another breakdown of your kind of like helpers and triggers here as well. You can change day effect like you can in the impacts tab. You can also zoom in a little bit. So if you can see 10 minutes meditation has a supposedly big impact on low concentration, one of my symptoms. You can actually get the average symptom scores with and without this too. So concentration is an average of 2 without meditation, and then it's an average of 0.7. So if I'm having a day with low concentration, maybe I can do 10 minutes of meditation to actually bring that symptom down. Maybe my concentration will improve if I do my meditation. So again, these are just tools to help you dig into what helps you to manage your health and what doesn't. Obviously, correlation isn't causation. So you have to kind of look at some of these things with skepticism, and it's okay to basically recognize unhelpful correlations. If there's something here that you need to disregard, do it. I think it's more important that you can sort through these and find the things that you do think are helping, and there's some evidence are helping over time and aren't just kind of correlation. Maybe there is some causation there, so that you can start to turn them into routines, into goals, into long-term habits to help you manage your health. The one tab we haven't looked at is the Discovery tab, which is where your bear lives. This is still quite manual right now, but this is the place you want to log the things that help you. So I can say that 10 minutes of meditation. I think we said that this didn't help with mood, actually. So sorry. Let's start over. So in this section, you'll see here mood is the thing that's selected. We found out that low concentration was helped by 10 minutes of meditation. How much did it help? It seemed to help a lot, and it relieves the symptom. Again, nice little celebration there. So I can see that now I've kind of stored in this diary that for low concentration, there is a thing that helps. Equally, I can add things that don't help. So maybe we can say that like sugar impacts moderately immediately. So it has a similar, like a same day or next day impact on my low concentration. When I have sugar, my concentration gets worse. These are called self-discoveries. It's just that this is basically a catalog of your findings. We're hoping to make it so that you can like tap on correlations and save them here in the future. Right now, this is just so that you can manually make a note of the things that help you to improve and worsen different aspects of your health, whether that's total symptom score, mood, sleep, energy, a health measurement, a specific symptom. This is a place where you can kind of diarize the things that you've found. It also means that you can stop tracking those things. If you've collected 30 days of data about how meditation impacts your ADHD symptoms, and you've found some conclusive evidence there that it's helpful for one thing, and there's something else that maybe doesn't help, like sugar for me, record them here so you can always refer back to them. and then stop tracking them. That data will always be there, but if you hide it from your home screen, it's just one less thing for you to track each day. And you can replace it with something new to track. Maybe there's another thing you think might help you with a symptom. Start tracking that instead. Like I say, your data will always be there if you hide it rather than deleting it. You can always refer back to those correlations in the future by toggling them back on and looking at your impacts tab. But actually, to save you that extra work so you don't have to keep tracking 10 minutes of meditation every day for the next 10 years of your life, do it for 30 days, do it for 6 months. Once you know what impact it has, save it on this screen, then stop tracking it and move on to something else. And this is just a place for you to kind of refer back to what helps. And so, if in 3 years you've forgotten what helps you with low concentration, you can come to your self-discoveries diary, go to low concentration and remind yourself, oh, I need to eat less sugar, I need to do 10 minutes of meditation. That will help me to manage my low concentration. That way you kind of don't have to sort through your data or look back through your data. You've already just saved it here. This is, like I say, still quite a new feature. Kind of will have some work done to it. But right now it's just a quick way to save your findings, your discoveries. And again, at some point, maybe we'll tie these to goals and, helping you to build routines out of these things that help you. Right now, it's quite simple, but hopefully it's just a place for you to save the things that you've learned about yourself, the things that help you to improve and worsen your health. Should all be just saved here. Cool. That's basically a breakdown of how to use Bearable. I think, like I say, the main things are when you first come in, don't think about tracking everything. Think about your priorities. What's the symptom that's affecting you most? The condition you most need answers about? What are the things that are most likely to be having a positive or negative impact on that condition or those symptoms? Track those things and hide everything else. Get rid of everything else using the edit button on your home screen. Toggle stuff off in those sections, even the sections you use. Hide stuff you don't need. And just focus on answering kind of one question at a time about your health. Save your findings to the discoveries page, then start on the next thing. I think the important thing is you can build a habit of kind of tracking useful things, learning useful things, moving on to the next thing, rather than just trying to track everything. That seems like it's a shortcut to just kind of never learning anything at all, because there's going to be so many variables, so much work for you to do. It's not going to feel like fun. It's not going to feel helpful. Obviously, if you want to monitor everything, that's okay too. Generally, we know that most people want to find a trigger, a helper. So in that instance, I'd recommend just tracking the things that are going to be most useful, just to kind of prevent overwhelm. That's it from me. Like I've said, get in touch with me at support@bearable.app, and I'm happy to help you with your kind of specific, unique cases as well. If you've got specific health needs or you're not sure how to track something, let me know. And actually, I've just reminded myself of one thing that I mentioned before, but I didn't actually set up. What should we do? In weather, let's use this as an example. There's one thing I'm going to show you how to do that I did not cover. Somebody got in touch with me recently and wanted to know how to track temperature and the impact that the average temperature outdoors has an impact on their health. And there's something that I quite often end up sharing on our communities or through support, which is, I'll try and do this in American temperatures, which is using custom factor ranges. So you can use a binary factor and you can group them into ranges to make them easier to track. So temp equals 60 Fahrenheit to 70 Fahrenheit. Confirm. And what this lets you do is, I'm not going to add tons of these ranges. This will just be an example. What this lets you do is on your factor section, dial into ranges of humidity, temperature, UV light, anything that in theory could have a fixed number every day. So, the temperature is going to be 74, 85, whatever it is. Instead of tracking all of those individual temperatures, because that means you'd have to have tons of individual factors, track them as a range. So, if you find that after a month, your symptoms are worse at 70 to 80F, then I'd say, okay, maybe in that range, you could have 70, 71, 72, 73, 74, 75, 76, 77, etc. And then you could track those days when they happen to get that like dialed in. If you need to know the exact temperature when your symptoms get worse, you'll be able to do that. But to begin with, I would track things as ranges. Factor ranges are going to help you just like collect more data about broad things that might have a granular measurement, but using a range is going to let you kind of track them in an easier way, a less intensive manual way. So this is a bit of a catch-all solution. This is kind of final last-minute tip of the day, because I kind of forgot that it is something that a lot of people request. Is like, how do I track this thing that has a really granular number attached to it? Don't track the granular number, track the range that it exists in, and then if you need to get granular, do that once you've identified the range that seems to have an impact on your health. Cool, I'm glad that I remembered that right at the end there. All right, thank you for watching. Get in touch with me if you need help. Leave comments on the video, and I'll try to get back to you there as well. Cool, I hope this has been informative, and I'm looking forward to any feedback you have as well about anything that might not be clear in this video too. Otherwise, good luck using Bearable.